Yo, my name is David Simmons and I'm reading for Alien Buddhist 2024 Horror Showdown. And this is my story, Frog Money. Yo, in Dundalk Middle School, the 8th graders have to dissect crabs because the admin smoked the frog money. Right before they're supposed to cut up the frogs, the science teacher's husband's brother's co-worker drops off a bushel of blue crabs sick with chitnoclastic disease, spotted shells, unfit for eating. The streetlight sodium yellow reek of piss fills the classroom. There's a saying in Baltimore, if it smells like ammonia, leave it alone ya. The death scent. Once the crab has reached this state, it is no longer safe to eat. Hell, some folks won't eat a crab unless it can snip them back, preferring the underwater spider to be alive until they can find a boiling pot of water to drop it into. The teacher has trouble getting control of the class, partly because she's going through post-acute Suboxone withdrawal, but mostly because there's a student named Bernard with the voice of an angel who has diverted the attention of the entire class. Calanectus sapidus, savory, beautiful swimmer. The other children hand Bernard their phones. The screens are lit up white with black spider-leg blocks of text, song lyrics, because Bernard has the voice of an angel and he will sing whatever you ask him to in exchange for fentanyl-pressed perks or fruit snacks. When you throw them in the scalding water, they scream at you. Angry, high-pitched, shrill. The crabs, not the children. The teacher's name is Miss Linthicum, and she's trying her best to get the class back on track, but Bernard has just been handed a phone with the lyrics to the Nelly and Kelly Rowland song Dilemma. Bernard has a falsetto worthy of a Tony Award, and he can really hit those high notes during the hook. Crabs, on the other hand, have no vocal cords. Their scream is just a sound of air escaping the narrow crevices in their bodies. Typically, crabs are dissected live after clipping the last segments of the walking legs, says Miss Linthicum, gesturing at a bushel of crabs sagging on a desk, dark stains spotting the brown paper bag. We don't have that luxury today, unfortunately. The bushel of crabs shifts as if the crustaceans are alive, the weight of the contents settling. Marquise, Miss Linthicum is pointing at a student with long red wicks as thick as pool noodles. Marquise, would you mind being my assistant? Marquise spits out a soggy sunflower seed shell on his desk and stands, shrugs with indifference. All right, he says. Thank you, Marquise, she says, lifting up the bushel of crabs and handing it to the student. Please pass out the samples, one for each of your peers. Marquise goes around the room dealing out the ripening crabs, his bright red wicks bouncing each time he dips his arms into the bushel of crabs. He reaches into the brown paper bag gently, careful not to clip himself on the claws or the sharp edges of shell. Bernard is still doing his falsetto. He can really hit those high notes, the low ones too. He's doing Kelly Rowland's vocals as well as Nelly's ad-libs. The way it sounds is funny because it is impossible for him to hit all of the lyrics on account of the way the song was recorded. The first two words of Nelly's part overlaps the last word of Kelly's part, so Bernard has to choose which words to sacrifice for the sake of staying on beat. When Marquise gets back to Bernard's desk and drops a blue crab on it, Bernard changes the lyrics to the Kelly Rowland chorus from "No matter when I'm with my boo, all I think about is you," to "No matter when I'm with my crab, all I think about is crabs." And although it is not a very creative improvisation, it is a funny one, and Miss Linthicum has lost control of the class again. "Simmer down, please," she says. "Come on, people, let's try and demonstrate some decorum. If not for me, then for the crabs. Do it for the crabs." The laughter subsides and Bernard goes back to singing the correct lyrics softly under his breath. When each student has a crab at their desk, Marquise balls up the wet bag and shoves it in the trash can behind the teacher's desk. He attempts to return to his desk, but Miss Linthicum stops him, her fingertips brushing the exposed skin of his neck. Marquise freezes up. Please, Marquise, the teacher says. Stay up here and be my special assistant. When Miss Linthicum says the word special, it sounds like sexual. She hands Marquise her crab. Now, the first thing Marquise is going to do is turn the crab over on its back and use his stout scissors to clip off the legs. If you would, Marquise. Marquise nods and uses his scissors to cut off the segments of leg. Fuck yes, hisses Miss Linthicum. The other students pick up their heavy shank scissors and do the same. Miss Linthicum points at the crab shell. This is called the dorsal carapace. Marquise is going to show you how to cut along the margin that joins the ventral sternites. Aren't you, Marquise? When Miss Linthicum says his name, the syllables sound sticky, as if the letters in his name are held together by the neon green adhesive you find in glue traps for mice. Marquise turns the dorsal surface upwards and separates the carapace from the lining membrane below it. Very good, Marquise. Miss Linthicum is smiling at him, and her smile is like rotten apples. Marquise can taste it. The air is thick with the awful sweetness of it. Now place the specimen on the dissecting tray while keeping the dorsal surface facing upwards. Now use your pins to fix the specimen in place. And are the rest of you following this? The students pass their pins through the walking legs and lateral sides of the abdominal sternites. See those plates? The teacher asks. Those segmented plates are called tergites. Marquise. Marquise's armpits are moist. Yeah, Miss Linthicum? Please cut the tergites of the abdomen along the lateral borders proceeding from where the cephalothorax and the abdomen connect. Marquise doesn't move. Right here, silly, the teacher says, taking his hand, the one holding the stout scissors in a vice grip, and guiding it to where the abdominal tergites are. You have really strong hands, Marquise. Has anyone ever told you that? Marquise places the stout scissors on the dissecting tray and squeezes his eyes shut, presses his palms against them. Well then, Miss Linthicum claps her hands together, then holds them out in front of her. Very good, everyone. If you have removed the tergites correctly, then the thoracic and abdominal organs should be exposed. One of the students hands Bernard her phone. He clears his throat and begins the intro to Pussy Is Mine by Miguel. I think Mines is still alive, says Sierra, who sits in the back of the classroom wide-eyed, staring at the specimen on her desk like it just spoke to her. Miss Linthicum ignores her. You see that orange mass? Kind of an orange-yellow color? With the exception of Bernard, the class lets out a grunt of affirmation. Bernard sings, Keep it 100, babe, we both know. That's called the hepatopancreas, the teacher continues. Many organs are contained inside it. The renal sac, the pericardial sinus, the gonads. The class explodes in laughter at the mention of gonads. Bernard sings, I'm not the only one. Sierra repeats herself. I said I think my crab is still alive, Miss Linthicum. All right, enough. Miss Linthicum is rolling her eyes and shaking her head. So childish. Goodness, can you believe them? She asks Marquise, waving an exasperated hand at the outburst. So mature. You're nothing like them, Marquise. You're so much more advanced. The crab on Sierra's desk is moving. The legs that weren't clipped, the ones held down with pins, curl and uncurl. They wiggle and twitch. The crustacean struggles against its restraints. My crab's definitely still alive, says Sierra. Be that as it may. Miss Linthicum continues as if the partially decorticated crab is not trying to tear itself in the dissection tray. The crab cannot feel pain. Bernard is singing, tell me that pussy is mine. Crustaceans, as far as we know, don't feel pain, says Miss Linthicum. Somebody wrote a paper about it once trying to claim otherwise, but they didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. The class gasps. Sorry, Miss Linthicum clears her throat, shakes her head. Nobody says anything and Bernard has finished the song. The crab on Sierra's desk jerks rhythmically. Sierra hands her phone to Bernard. That makes sense, I guess. Bernard looks at the screen and nods. He hands Sierra back his phone and gets up and slowly knocks the dissection tray off his desk. Dismembered crab and stout scissors clatter on the ground. Sierra also stands. Bernard lays on the desk belly up, arms spread like Jesus, his feet firmly planted on the ground. Sierra lifts up his shirt, exposing his stomach. Miss Linthicum rolls her eyes for the 100th time. See, Marquise, ridiculous, childish, so immature. Not like us. We're above all that, aren't we? Marquise drops the stout scissors he's been holding in both sides of the classroom. Run along, then, coward, amateur. Sierra holds the stout scissors open and uses one of the blades to vivisect Bernard. A bead of blood runs from the black line that Sierra draws on his stomach and chest. You're going to need to open the hepatopancreas first to expose the organs contained inside. Do you see that narrow tube running through the abdomen and terminating at the rectum? The class explodes in laughter at the mention of rectums. Simmer down, simmer down. It's not that funny, really. Sierra peels back the skin and muscle of Bernard's torso, exposing his rib cage. The bones look iridescent under the parabolic fixtures. She attempts to clip the ribs with the stout scissors, and when this fails, she uses her bare hands to break the ribs and peel them back. I don't see it, Miss Linthicum. See what, Sierra? The whatever, I don't see it. Hepatopancreas, corrects Miss Linthicum. And did you remove the tergites? Sierra points at Bernard's broken ribs with a bloody finger. I did. See? Miss Linthicum shakes her head. Oh, goodness. Those aren't tergites, Sierra. Those are Bernard's ribs, or what's left of them. Sierra digs around in Bernard, pushing aside strange masses and slimy ropes of intestine. I'm just saying, Miss Linthicum, I still don't see it. The whatever. Hepatopancreas. And that's because Bernard does not have a hepatopancreas. Why not? Because Bernard is not a crab. Sierra says, oh, right. Outside of the classroom, Marquise has run down the hall, tearing down banners and posters of hanging cats would never give up printed on them as he hastily makes his escape. The double doors explode and Marquise is outside, screaming at the top of his lungs, attempting to wave down a police officer or someone, anyone. The room is silent, except for the baked ziti stirring sound of Sierra digging around in Bernard's abdominal cavity. Miss Linthicum is sweating hard. Sierra can smell her iron musk. In front of the school, Marquise has managed to get the attention of the police. An unmarked Dodge Charger pulls up to the curb and the window rolls down. A beefy pink arm comes out of it. Mirror tint Ray-Ban aviators float above the arm in a cloud of black and mild smoke. The Ray-Ban aviators shout at him. Why are you outside? You need to be in school. Get the fuck back in the building. Now, right now. Fuck is wrong with you, you mook? Please, Marquise begs. Sir, please, need your help. Don't understand. You don't help us. The Ray-Ban aviators turn away from Marquise and speak to someone else inside the car. Yeah, must be high or something. One of those autistics or something, or whatever the fuck. The Ray-Ban aviators turn back to Marquise and tell him that if he does not go back to class, they are going to charge him with truancy and trespassing and assault on a police officer. And because Marquise is more afraid of getting sent to the Charles A. Chickey School for Boys than he is of losing a few tergites, he goes back inside the building. Back in the classroom, Sierra is digging around in Bernard, still trying to find his hepatopancreas, an exercise in futility. Miss Linthicum stands at the front of the class explaining the difference between convergent evolution and parallel evolution. A pool of blood the size of an area rug has spread around the desk that Bernard is sprawled across. Marquise understands now. He really does. So he takes his phone and holds it out in front of Bernard's face, the light of the screen making his skin turn gray. And this time he has a song. Bernard begins to sing. His voice is beautiful, angelic, because his song is the crab scream. Marquise hears the song elated, and my, how it is a beautiful song, even if it is only the sound of air escaping the neural crevices in Bernard's body. Thank y'all.